Welcome to Specific Love. For this video, I'm going to show you how I made an awesome abstract storage unit that fits under my stairs, but also doubles as a heavy-duty workbench. Let's begin. Now, our house sits on top of a basement. That also doubles as our garage. Now, in this garage, we had a set of stairs that go up to the main floor, and it's kind of a storage of sorts underneath it. Now, most of this stuff is just in the way at times, hard to find, and I want to see if I can create some kind of a cabinet system that will utilize all this space up here, be able to condense some of this stuff on the floor, and have the ability to move it in and out, just in case I ever have to. Now, to get this started, I want to create a frame for the box. So I want to start ripping down some 2x4s. I'm first going to take off the edges, and then we're going to trim these down to 1.5 inches across, so I should be able to get 2 nice strips out of each board. Now I end up cutting down 3 2x4s into 1.5 by 1.5 square long boards. Now I'm going to cut these to length. Now that I have everything cut, I'm trying to do a somewhat quick assembly here, just to see how everything is going to look like. And I think I'm going to be doing some cuts across the middle here to make a shelf. Now to add the shelf, I'm going to be doing some dado cuts in all of the uprights. I grabbed a piece of scrap that was from the actual plywood that I'm going to be using as the shelf. And so we're going to measure this out carefully, getting it as centered as possible, and then we're going to mark this up. We got to be very careful that the width of this plywood is basically the exact size of the hole in here, so that way everything will be nice and strong and don't have to worry about it being a weak spot. Now I've taped wood together in pairs to make these cuts a little bit more accurate and quicker. Now I made sure the tape is going to be on the outside of the sleds I'm going to be using so it doesn't throw off the depth of the cut. Alright, that should work quite nicely. Now I'm going to create the front and back pieces first, and to do that I'm using pocket holes. Now to have the side together, I want to add pocket screws to connect these rails, but I cannot do them in the same direction or these 2 screws will intersect and cause problems. So, since this one's already facing down, I'm going to be facing this one up, and that should do the trick. Now that I have the frame together, I'm going to be adding some center supports. These will not only help with the top, but with the shelf. That's why we put the dado in them earlier. Now I'm going to be attaching these with pocket screws. Now that the frame's done, I'm going to be cutting out the base. Actually, the base and the middle shelf. This is the same thickness as I was gauging for the dado earlier, so everything should match up perfectly. This is a lower grade plywood, but that's okay because it's not going to be seen. Now I have the frame on the floor and I have it flipped upside down, so we're going to attach the bottom first. Now I made sure the nasty sides of the wood are going to be facing down so you don't have to worry about it. And also I've noticed when I did this, the frame is slightly twisted. That's okay. I measured out the back 2 corners. I'm going to put a couple screws in, then we're going to twist the frame just a little bit, make sure everything is square, and then we'll add the rest of the screws. Now I've always been told I overdo stuff, but I'm still going to add some additional screws all the way around just for added strength. Now that I have the back on, I've turned it on its side and I've cut out the middle shelf. So we're going to try and see if we can slide this in. There's a good chance it will be a tight fit. Whew, awesome. Going in nicely. Ow! Watch out for the splinters, I'll get you. Tight fit. We're going to have to work this, but it'll get in there. Now once we have the shelf in place, I'm going to flush it up here, and then I'm going to take one additional piece that I've cut to size. I want to stick it underneath, and that'll just give some added support across here. And that's real important as we go to load this up with stuff, especially here on the front. There's a good chance there'll be a lot of weight on it, and so that'll just give it some added strength. Now to hold the shelf in place, you don't need much. I'm just going to add a couple screws, one on each side. Next up, we're going to be adding on the back. I'm going to be using some 1/4 inch plywood. Now, I believe this is a hardwood. It's what I had on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. Then we're just going to screw it to the back. And for the right side of the cabinet, I decided I'm just going to stick with this 1/4 inch plywood. That should give it plenty of strength. For the back and the side, you can add a bunch of screws, or if you have a brad nailer, you can make it a little bit simpler. Now for the left side and the front, I'm going to create some doors. I'm going to be using the 1/4 inch plywood to continue that. But for the top, I need something a little bit more sturdy, and I have some nice quality 3/4 inch pine plywood. This should be nice and strong in case I ever need to use this as a bench. Now for the top here, I'm going to be using some traditional cherry stain, but for everything else, I have other plans. Now we're going to give this some time to dry, and I'm going to cut out the doors. Now for the side doors, I have cut them out to almost the full height of the cabinet. I've took in consideration the 3/4 inch at the top and the bottom for the plywood. I'm going to have these sitting on just a little bit of a ledge here, so that way they don't interfere with any other clearance. With that said, I'm also going to need to create a handle, but I can't have just a basic handle because it's going to stick out too far. So I'm just going to drill a hole so I can easily stick a finger in, and that'll be my little handle. Now I've clamped both of these doors together so we know the hole will be in the same exact spot on both. And I'm going to use a 1-inch Forstner bit. And remember, whenever you're installing the doors, to make sure you have some space at the bottom, top, and sides, because there will be a little bit of expansion and contraction with wood. Now once I had everything spaced out, I clamped it down and flipped this onto its back to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to be installing a couple 2-inch hinges on each door. If you look at a hinge, a lot of times you'll have one side that's almost flat and the other side that sticks out more. The side that sticks out more, I'm going to actually place to the inside because I have a little bit of a gap here. This will also minimize anything sticking out from the sides. Now I've marked each one of these holes. I'm going to pre-drill them to prevent any kind of crack. Now to attach the hinges to the door, because the doors are so thin, is going to require a couple extra steps. But first we're going to still pre-drill the holes. Then we want to install each of these screws, but we only want to go about 1/4 to 1/3 of the way in. That way it'll be secure into the door, but not holding it against the frame. Then we want to unclamp the door and carefully lift it up and finish screwing these screws all the way through. And with the screws all the way through, now they're going to stick out too far and you won't be able to shut the door. So we're going to start cutting these off. Then I'm just going to quickly hit them with a file and knock off the sharp edges. And to prevent the remaining pieces sticking up from the screws to cause any problems, I'm going to take the smallest Forstner bit I have, which is 1/4 inch, and just drill a very small hole. Now to keep these doors from moving around, I'm going to install some rare earth magnets, but I need to mark the doors, so just very lightly right here in the corner and up at the top. Now to install the magnets, I used a Forstner bit to drill 3/4 inches in and up into the main frame. And then I'm going to glue one of these magnets right in place. Now to get the magnets to work, we need to attach some metal to the door. I'm going to use one of these sawtooth hangers that normally is a little bit odd shaped. We're going to pound it flat, cut it, and glue it to the door. And once you have everything in place, the doors should shut nicely. Now for the front doors, we're going to do a very similar process. Space it all out and add the hinges. Alright, we got the front doors on. We decided to use a little bit smaller hinges on the back side. One, just because the doors aren't as tall, we didn't need as strong of a hinge. So we have 2-inch on the main side doors and 1.5 on the front doors. Now flip the whole cabinet upside down, and I'm going to be adding some rigid casters. I decided to go with rigid because this whole cabinet is only going to be going in and out in one direction under the stairs, so I don't need it trying to pivot and bumping everything. So we're going to install these, one in each corner. Now I'm going to be installing the casters with some 2.5-inch screws, but I'm going to pre-drill each of these so it doesn't split the wood. Alright, let's see how sturdy this thing is. Oh yeah, that should work out great. Alright, at this point we could add the top and pretty much be done, but I want to do something a little bit different. We're actually going to paint all the sides of this and do a little abstract art on it just to make it stand out. Let's do this. Now that we have all the tape on here in just random directions, we have 3 different colors, yellow, orange, and red, and we're just going to attack this randomly and see how it turns out. And I'm going to use spray paint just because it is a shop project. I'm not overly concerned about the durability of it looking perfect, say it was in your house and on your wall. So let's do this. Now that we got it painted, we've moved it back inside real carefully so we can have air conditioning. And we'd remove the tape. And we got to be careful because of the tape is crossed areas. Now there's a good chance you'll have a little bit of bleed over under the tape here. I'm not too concerned with that. Again, it's a shop project, but overall it's still going to look great. Now we're going to install the top with some screws. And there we go, a perfect fit. I have easy access to these two doors here so I can get stuff out, and if there's anything in the back, I can always roll it out and get to the side doors. And if by chance I ever need a hard surface to work on in the garage, I have a mobile bench right here under the stairs. I know this is not one of my normal projects, especially the abstract color, but I like it. I think it's gonna grow on me, especially in this nice dingy garage. It'll lighten it up and just give it a little more life to it. Well, if you like this project, make sure you click the like button and tell me what you think about it. I really am intrigued on your thoughts on this whole setup, especially the color. Otherwise, get out in your shop and have fun building. Ow! Ouch. Oops. Did you get that? Nice job.